The internet didn't just flinch, it froze. Because at the exact moment NBA Youngboy finally opened his mouth, the entire hip-hop world felt like it shifted off its axis. This wasn't a sneak diss. This wasn't a cryptic caption. This was a full-blown rupture. A voice recording leaked. A song decoded. And suddenly, the question everyone had whispered for years was screaming across timelines: did Birdman really finesse Youngboy? Fans replayed the clip again and again, trying to process the weight in his voice. Not anger. Not bravado. Betrayal. The kind that only comes when someone you trusted like family turns out to be counting your money behind your back. And when one line surfaced, "I should have listened to Wayne," the culture went dead silent. Because if that's true, this isn't just Youngboy's story. This is history repeating itself in real time. Within minutes, old interviews resurfaced. Smiling hugs. "That's my son. That's family." And suddenly, all of it felt different. Calculated. Strategic. Like a long con hiding behind love. Twitter exploded. Fans spiraled. Industry insiders started whispering. Because this wasn't just about a bad deal, this was about power, manipulation, and a pattern that people were too scared to call out until now. And just when everyone thought it couldn't get heavier, another clip leaked. A private conversation. Numbers mentioned. Laughing in the background. And one sentence that made my stomachs drop: "They gave him to me for free." That's when the internet realized this wasn't beef. This was an exposure. And if Youngboy is really done protecting feelings, what he says next could burn the whole game down. The first crack didn't come from a press release or an interview. It came from a leak. A raw, shaky audio clip that started circulating in private group chats before it ever hit the timeline. NBA Youngboy's voice sounded tired, guarded, like someone choosing every word carefully because once it's said, there's no taking it back. "I thought I was protected," he said quietly. "Turns out, I was positioned." That word hit like a gunshot. Position doesn't mean helped. It means placed. Used. And suddenly, everything people thought they understood about his relationship with Birdman started feeling dangerously incomplete. For years, the public story was simple. Birdman took Youngboy under his wing. Louisiana royalty linking up. The OG mentoring the young phenom. Birdman calling him son, promising guidance while Youngboy battled cases, trauma, and the pressure of superstardom. On camera, it looked like family. Off camera, according to insiders, the math never mathed. Publishing splits that shifted without explanation. Credits that appeared where contributions didn't. Checks that came late or not at all. At first, Youngboy allegedly brushed it off. He trusted Birdman. That trust was the leverage. Then came the first betrayal moment fans didn't catch at the time. An old interview resurfaced where Birdman laughed about getting Youngboy cheap during a rough legal period. Back then, it sounded like business bravado. Now, it sounded like a confession. According to a leaked DM from someone close to Youngboy's camp, that interview was the moment things changed privately. Youngboy started asking questions. Quiet ones. About numbers. About ownership. About why Birdman's name was attached to projects he barely touched. The response, allegedly, was immediate and cold. Calls slowed. Meetings got postponed. The sun energy disappeared. Social media went feral when fans started lining up timelines. The joint project credits. Birdman's minimal presence on tracks but maximum presence on paperwork. One viral thread claimed Birdman's name guaranteed him a cut regardless of contribution. Another alleged he used his influence to keep Youngboy dependent, discouraging outside advisors and downplaying warnings from others. And then the Lil Wayne connection detonated everything. That old bar resurfaced like a ghost: "I told Youngboy watch out for old head." What once felt like rap talk suddenly read like a warning label. Behind the scenes, according to multiple anonymous industry insiders, Birdman allegedly sold Youngboy a dream that mirrored the one he sold Wayne years earlier. Family. Loyalty. Legacy. But when the money conversation came up, the temperature dropped. One leaked message claimed Birdman told someone, "You don't count the money when you're family." That line enraged fans. Because history remembers what happened when Wayne finally counted. Lawsuits. Delays. A public collapse of trust. And now, people were asking the question nobody wanted to ask. Was Youngboy just the next chapter? The emotional fallout was visible long before the words came out. Fans rewatched Youngboy's old interviews and noticed the shift. Less praise. More distance. Lyrics that felt heavier, more suspicious. Then Tears of War dropped, and everything exploded. This wasn't a diss record. It was a confession disguised as music. Lines about loving someone who never loved him back. About trusting someone who was playing chess while he was playing loyalty. When he said he should have listened to Wayne, the internet froze. Because that wasn't clout chasing. That was regret. Industry reactions poured in without names attached. Rappers tweeting about fake fathers. Producers posting cryptic emojis. Old Cash Money affiliates liking comments they shouldn't have touched. And Birdman? Silent. No denial. No clarification. No threats. Just quiet. In hip-hop, silence isn't neutral. It's strategic. And fans started speculating why he wouldn't just shut it down if it was all lies. Then came the alleged numbers leak. Screenshots claiming Birdman bragged privately about acquiring Youngboy for free when Atlantic backed away during his legal storm. Whether exaggerated or not, the implication was ugly. It reframed the mentorship as a transaction. A distressed asset being flipped for profit. And the worst part? Youngboy might not have realized it until the damage was done. According to someone close to Youngboy, the breaking point came when he was under house arrest, isolated, stressed, and asking for support that never showed up. Promises were made. Help was implied. But when the pressure peaked, Birdman was nowhere. That absence spoke louder than any argument. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about loyalty when it actually mattered. As fans argued online, the narrative split. Some said this was just industry business. Others said it was emotional manipulation wrapped in family language. But one thing was undeniable. Youngboy didn't sound angry. He sounded hurt. And hurt people don't expose unless they've already tried staying quiet. The final moment of this chapter came from another leaked snippet, allegedly recorded after Tears of War was finished. Youngboy said, "I won't say everything. Not yet." That sentence lit the fuse. Because it confirmed what everyone feared. This wasn't the full story. This was restraint. And if restraint breaks, the fallout won't just be personal. It'll be generational. As the clip cut off, one thought echoed across the culture. If this is what Youngboy was willing to say while still holding back, what happens when he stops protecting the legacy of the man who allegedly never protected him at all? Once that line spread, "I won't say everything. Not yet." The internet knew restraint was the most dangerous part of this story. Because holding back means there's more. And the next wave didn't come from Youngboy directly. It came from people around him who were done staying quiet. Anonymous insiders started dropping breadcrumbs that felt too specific to ignore. Dates. Percentages. Contract language. Suddenly this wasn't just emotion. It was paperwork. And paperwork has a way of exposing what smiles try to hide. One alleged former business associate leaked a screenshot claiming Birdman's company was collecting back-end percentages on projects where his actual involvement was ceremonial at best. Fans spiraled. How do you collect like a partner when you barely show up like one? Another leak followed, a voice memo allegedly from a heated phone call where Youngboy asked why numbers kept changing. The response wasn't reassurance. It was deflection. "You don't need to worry about that," the voice said. "I got you." That line hit like deja vu. Talking about. A producer who once worked under Birdman liked a tweet that read, "Some OGs don't mentor, they harvest." The like was deleted within minutes. Screenshots live forever. Behind the scenes, rumors started circulating that Youngboy had quietly hired forensic accountants. Nothing confirmed. Nothing denied. But fans noticed subtle changes. Lyrics that got sharper. Interviews that got colder. And then another leak hit, this one a supposed internal conversation where Birdman laughed about Youngboy's streaming numbers while brushing off questions about payout timelines. The phrase that sent fans into orbit was allegedly, "He'll make it back." Make what back? Money he never saw? The emotional side of it all was getting darker too. People close to Youngboy claimed he felt isolated, manipulated, and embarrassed. Embarrassed not because he failed, but because he trusted. In hip-hop, trusting the wrong person can hurt worse than any diss. It makes you question your instincts, your judgment, your own strength. And when you're already under legal pressure, that kind of betrayal can break something internally. Fans started noticing it in his demeanor. Less fire. More reflection. Less bravado. More pain. Social media turned into a war zone. Birdman supporters accused Youngboy of ingratitude. He wouldn't be here without him, they said. Youngboy fans fired back harder. Wayne wouldn't have needed to sue if Family was real. Every old Cash Money controversy got dragged back into the light. Delayed albums. Missing payments. Public fallouts. Patterns stacked on patterns until coincidence stopped being an option. And still, Birdman said nothing. Then came the celebrity reactions that shifted the tone completely. A veteran rapper posted, "If two generations tell you the same story, listen." Another wrote, "The game don't change, just the faces. No names. No tags." But the timing said everything. Even DJs started chiming in, questioning why Birdman never directly denied the claims. In hip-hop, denial is usually immediate. Silence means strategy. The most unsettling leak came late one night. A supposed behind-the-scenes recording where someone close to Birdman joked about keeping Youngboy busy with music so he won't ask too many questions. The internet lost its mind. Busy how? With tours? Drops? Obligations? The implication was ugly. Keep the artist moving so he never stops long enough to look at the books. Whether real or not, the idea stuck. And once it sticks, it's almost impossible to shake. Fans also noticed something else that felt off. Despite all the praise Birdman gave Youngboy publicly, there was never a clear moment where Birdman stepped aside and let him fully own his independence. Ownership stayed murky. Credit stayed shared. Control stayed centralized. It felt less like mentorship and more like containment. One commentator put it bluntly, "You don't keep your son on a leash forever unless you're scared of what happens when he runs free." As pressure mounted, people started asking why Youngboy hadn't gone nuclear yet. Why not drop receipts? Why not file something? Why not expose everything? And the answer many came to was heartbreaking. Because Youngboy wasn't just protecting himself. He was protecting a legacy he once believed in. Calling out Birdman publicly doesn't just burn one bridge. It burns an entire era of hip-hop mythology. And doing that comes with consequences that go far beyond one beef. Then came the twist that confused everyone. Reports surfaced of Birdman and Youngboy being in the same room again. Laughing. Performing. Squashing things publicly. The internet split instantly. Some saw healing. Others saw manipulation. Because reconciling doesn't mean the damage never happened. Sometimes it just means one side decided it wasn't safe to keep fighting. Fans started asking the question nobody wanted to answer. Was Youngboy choosing peace or choosing survival? The reconciliation didn't calm anything. It made it worse. Because it raised a terrifying possibility. What if the truth is so damaging that silence feels safer than exposure? What if speaking fully costs more than staying quiet? That's when one final rumor started circulating, that Youngboy had been advised not to say everything yet. Not by lawyers. By people who've seen what happens when you cross certain lines in the industry. Whether true or not, the fear felt real. And just when the tension couldn't get higher, Youngboy allegedly told someone close to him, "They think this over." It ain't. That sentence spread like wildfire. Because it suggested the calm was temporary. Strategic. A pause before impact. Fans started counting days. Watching lyrics. Watching moves. Waiting for the moment restraint finally snaps. Because if this was only the controlled version of the story, the careful version, then the unfiltered truth is something nobody is ready for. And the cliffhanger hanging over the culture now is terrifyingly simple. If Youngboy ever decides to stop protecting feelings and start protecting himself, what names, numbers, and documents are going to come with that decision? The calm didn't feel like peace. It felt like the quiet right before something breaks. After the so-called reconciliation photos surfaced, the industry tried to move on. Blogs stopped pushing alerts. Comment section slowed. People told themselves it was squashed. That the drama was over. But behind the scenes, the tension was still boiling, and the next leak made it painfully clear that nothing had been resolved, it had just gone underground. The leak came from a burner account that dropped a single file with no caption. No context. Just audio. A low-quality recording, allegedly from a private conversation, where NBA Youngboy's voice sounded colder than anyone had ever heard it. No emotion. No pain. Just clarity. "I know what I signed," he said. "I also know what I didn't get." That sentence alone reignited everything. Because it confirmed what fans had suspected all along. This wasn't confusion. This was realization. According to insiders, the reconciliation wasn't about forgiveness, it was about timing. Youngboy was still dealing with legal pressure, still under intense scrutiny, still not in a position to blow everything up without consequences. And Birdman knew that. That's what made the power imbalance feel so sinister. One source claimed Birdman leaned on the same tactic he's allegedly used for decades: wait it out, smooth it over, let time bury the noise. But this time, something was different. Youngboy wasn't quiet out of loyalty anymore. He was quiet out of calculation. Then came the document rumors. Multiple industry pages reported that Youngboy's team had quietly requested a full audit of every project tied to Birdman's involvement. No lawsuits yet. No public filings. Just requests. Paper trails. Accountings. The kind of moves you make when you're preparing, not reacting. Fans noticed Youngboy stopped mentioning Birdman altogether. No praise. No shots. Nothing. And in hip-hop, silence after exposure isn't closure, it's strategy. The internet erupted again when a second alleged audio snippet leaked. This one was shorter. More dangerous. "They kept telling me I was family," Youngboy said. Family don't hide numbers. That line spread like wildfire, plastered across Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram captions within hours. DJs replayed it. Commentators dissected it. Because it cut straight through the mythology. Family doesn't require secrecy. Family doesn't get defensive when you ask about money. Family doesn't benefit while you struggle. At the same time, old Birdman interviews started resurfacing again, but this time people weren't watching them with nostalgia. They were watching them with suspicion. Every joke about business. Every offhand comment about owning catalogs. Every moment where he bragged about turning artists into stars. Fans started asking who really benefited from those stars once the spotlight faded. And the Wayne comparison came roaring back louder than ever. The lawsuit. The missing royalties. The years of silence before the truth came out. The parallels were impossible to ignore. Then came the industry whispers that made people uneasy. One veteran manager anonymously claimed Birdman had been known to structure deals where his name alone guaranteed. Youngboy's fans shifted from debate to defense. This wasn't about contracts anymore. This was about dignity. About a young artist who survived violence, trauma, and systemic pressure, only to realize the person he trusted most in the industry might have been profiting from his vulnerability. Comment sections filled with the same message over and over: protect Youngboy. Because for the first time, he wasn't just seen as a rapper, he was seen as someone who got played by the system he thought he'd finally beaten. Birdman's silence grew heavier by the day. No interview. No denial. No explanation. In hip-hop, silence after accusation can mean a lot of things, but it never means innocence. And that's what terrified people. Because if Birdman really had clean hands, this would have been shut down immediately. Instead, the quiet stretched on, broken only by cryptic posts from people who'd been around Cash Money for years. Been there, one wrote. Same movie. Another posted, truth always late, but it never miss. Then came the twist that flipped the entire narrative again. A report surfaced claiming that Youngboy had turned down a private settlement offer. Not confirmed. Not denied. But the rumor alone sent shockwaves through the industry. Because turning down money means one thing: you're not done. You're not looking for a payout. You're looking for acknowledgement. Or justice. Or both. And that's when fans realized the reconciliation might have been nothing more than a ceasefire. The final leak of this chapter was the most chilling. A short message allegedly sent by Youngboy to someone in his circle. When I talk, it won't be music. That sentence haunted the internet. Because it implied what everyone feared. The next time he speaks, it won't be through lyrics. It won't be coded. It won't be poetic. It'll be direct. Names. Numbers. Facts. As the dust settled, one truth became impossible to ignore. This story isn't about beef. It's about power. About how legends maintain control. About how loyalty gets weaponized. And about how young artists are expected to be grateful even when they're being drained. Youngboy didn't just crack the door open, he showed the hinges. And now the culture is holding its breath. Because if this is the controlled version of the story, if this is Youngboy still choosing restraint, then the unfiltered truth is something the industry is not prepared to survive. The only question left hanging in the air is the most dangerous one of all. What happens when NBA Youngboy finally decides he's done being quiet and starts saying everything? And this is the moment where you have to decide if you're just watching drama or witnessing a turning point in hip-hop history. Because stories like this don't fade away, they either get buried or they explode. And everything about this silence, these leaks, these half-spoken truths tells us one thing loud and clear: this isn't over. It's loading. If you scroll past this now, you're going to wake up to headlines that won't make sense without this context. You'll hear people arguing about receipts, audits, betrayals, and legacies, and you'll be trying to piece together how it all unraveled so fast. This is how it always happens. The real stories don't come wrapped in press releases. They come in pauses. In coded lines. In moments where someone finally realizes they've been played and decides how much they're willing to risk by telling the truth. So don't let this disappear in the algorithm. Hit that like button right now so this story stays alive. Drop a comment and say what you really think, because the culture is deciding this narrative in real time. And most importantly, subscribe and turn on notifications immediately. Not later. Not when it's trending everywhere. Because when Youngboy speaks again, and he will, it won't be subtle, it won't be musical.